Go. Forget it. What happened was 2, 0, 1. Now that we have reached some kind of resolution to the debt ceiling, with both parties struggling and coming to this last minute bill, what is your take on the approach of the president towards bipartisanship? And has anything about the dynamics of bipartisanship as a whole, in your opinion, changed the fabric of politics?
Well, let me answer the first part of that question to start. The president's approach to bipartisanship is pragmatic and something that I think we've been missing over the last few years under the Bush administration, where it was a one-sided approach to government. I think President Obama has done an excellent job at promoting bipartisanship and promoting compromise. I do think that he needs to continue to push what he wants to get done, because I think oftentimes what happens is you get to a middle of the road solution, and it doesn't make anybody happy, and it doesn't do what's best for the country. So I think he needs to continue to push what he believes is the right way to do things, but I think that he has been open to seeing both sides of the issue. On the second part of that, how the dynamic of bipartisanship has changed, I think the Tea Party has really had an effect on how business is done in Washington, whether that be good or bad, depending on your beliefs. I think the Tea Party has had a real effect. With the whole debt ceiling deal, they really pushed the debate towards their end. It became about spending instead of about taxes, and taxes are what President Obama and Democrats have been pushing for, tax reform, and the Tea Party was able to keep the focus on spending and keep the focus on what their agenda is. And so I think that's really shifted bipartisanship. I think it's become you have to go their way or the highway, and so President Obama was forced into that situation of compromise.
Three. So what do you think about the immigration status of the U.S. right now?
I think a lot of reform needs to take place with regards to immigration right now. There are numerous ideas for reform that have been proposed, and I think we really need to take a closer look at some of those ideas. What has been at the forefront of this debate has been tighter border control, and that's been pushed for the last 10 and 15 years, is tighter border control. That hasn't solved the problem, and so we need to look at other approaches. Things like making legal immigration easier to obtain, cheaper to obtain, so that people who want to immigrate here don't have to pay money that they can't afford to try to come here, and so they choose to come illegally rather than immigrate legally. The benefit to people immigrating legally is that you're paying taxes, you're contributing to our country in that way, and so I think that it's very important that legal immigration is expanded so that more people have access to be able to legally immigrate here. Another big thing with regards to immigration is the DREAM Act, which has been proposed once in Congress and failed by the Senate, which I believe is something that needs to be done immediately. There are children of illegal immigrants who, through no fault of their own, have been brought to this country, and we are asking them to do 2 years of service in our military or 2 years of service in our colleges, and in exchange for that service, giving them legal residency status. And I think that's something that is a humanitarian issue as much as it is an issue that it forces immigrants to contribute. And that's something that is extremely important. Service is the cornerstone of this country, and I think to allow more people to commit themselves to service, to allow more people to contribute in a positive way to this country is what we need right now.
Two, three. Now let's talk about healthcare. Last year it was passed. The opposition the Republicans want to repeal it. What's good about it? What's not so good about it? And what do you think? Where does it stand with all the opposition, with the elections coming up, 2012? What's your take on this?
Well, I can't speak for sure on whether or not it's going to be repealed, but from the looks of what's going on right now, it seems as though without Republicans having a real alternative, it's going to stay in place because there are good aspects of the health care plan that was passed, so the Affordable Care and Patient Protection Act, that essentially expanded health care to include more people. And what that does is reduces risk, and supposedly is going to drive premiums down. And so the healthcare mandate is designed to include a bigger pool of people to reduce that risk and drive those premiums down. There's also subsidies offered to people who cannot afford healthcare for their reasons, whatever they may be, that they can apply for. And so I think there is something that it is doing about cost control. Now, I think there is more that needs to be done. The mandate, unfortunately, I think is going to squeeze a lot of families out because without premiums going down in the short run, but the mandate being implemented in the short run, you're going to see a lot of families who are going to have to buy health care now, and that's going to take up a huge portion of their budget, and it's going to be really difficult for them to afford that without the cost controls that need to be in place, without the public option, something that I think needs to be put in place. It's never made sense to me that healthcare is a business. It seems contradictory that an organization that is supposed to hand out money for people to get care is at the same time trying to make a profit. And with people not being able to take their insurance from state to state, what's happened is in a lot of states there's been a monopolization of the healthcare industry, and so people have one option, and that option includes high premiums and low benefits, and I think that's something that needs to be changed. I think there needs to be a public option to make sure that costs are driven down, to make sure that the private sector has to compete with an option that is going to be good, with an option that's going to have low premiums and good benefits. And so I think the plan should have gone further. Unfortunately, it hasn't. And as for Republicans who want to repeal the plan, unfortunately for them, the thing is, Paul Ryan, one of their representatives, has proposed the exact same plan for Medicare. It does the exact same thing as Obama's healthcare plan does for healthcare as a whole. And so I don't think they have any room to say we want to repeal this when they're trying to do the exact same thing, and they proposed the exact same plan in the 1990s.
3. Now that was a great moment in your presidency when... Shit. It was a great moment for all peace-loving people, and especially the United States, when Osama bin Laden was found and shot. The question I have for you is, how did that change our dynamics with our supposed ally, Pakistan, when it was done just a short distance away from Islamabad? What do you think? What do you think about this whole situation, and where do you think it'll end up?
Well, I can't speak as to where it will end up, but at this point, I think it has certainly changed the dynamic between the United States and Pakistan. Pakistan was a country that was trusted by the United States. Their government was seen as legitimate, and I think that's going to change. I think you're going to see, you've already seen, a changing dynamic with the U.S. sending in more drones to take out top members of an that Pakistan has been harboring, and obviously taking out Osama bin Laden, who's been harbored there for the last 5 to 6 years. I think it really speaks badly of their government that we had such a working relationship with them under President Bush, and that they were, and President Bush was really trying and pushing to make them our ally in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. And I think that it's instilled a deep sense of mistrust in the Pakistani government in the United States because of what's happened there and with their harboring of terrorists. And I think you're going to see a different relationship. I don't think it's going to be as cordial. I think it's going to be the United States saying, look, we have to do what we have to do to protect our national security, and if Pakistan or any other country is getting in the way of that, and in their case intentionally, it would seem, getting in the way of that, that you are no longer our ally, and that we're no longer going to support you with aid or with any weapons or with any type of working relationship. And so I think that's going to change drastically the dynamic that the United States has with Pakistan, and that the United States has with that entire region.
The next question that I would like to go to is your reaction on teetering economic situation that Europe has been going through with Greece, the other countries. Iceland went through it, and Greece at one point has come to a point where they're selling government highways to clear the debt. So what's your take on the economy in Europe in general and the effects it is having today?
I think that Europe, being a huge, as a continent, being a huge player in the global economy, certainly the fallout from their economic recessions is going to have an impact on the rest of the world. It's just inevitable in an age of a globalized economy. Speaking as to the debt and the bailout of Greece, I think Greece was certainly going through some tough times, and they still are, and they're looking at austerity measures to try to decrease that debt, and that's similar to what we're doing here in the United States. And I think, luckily for us, we're taking a look at this debt earlier on I think the European economy is a huge player in the global economy, and so in an age of globalism, you're going to see a huge fallout from anything that goes wrong over in Europe as far as the economy goes. And so the recession and the effects of the European recession remain to be seen, but I think that will certainly have an impact on the global economy. Certainly, when the United States went into recession, we had a huge impact on European markets, and I think the same is going to happen the other way around. Speaking as to Greece's situation and their debt, they've been looking at putting austerity measures in to ensure that they get out of that debt, and as a bargaining tool to.
Now let's coming back to the debt ceiling issue.